welcome once again to another episode of Vapin' Wally, and I am Walt. Today our guest comes from Smoant. It is the latest and greatest from Smoant as far as I understand. The Smoant NaBoo. Let's look at it. Here's the box that I got, and it may or may not be the box you'll get because there's a little sticker on the side that says sample for test use only. But we have the color of the particular one that was sent, and on the back, if you want to stop it, you can read all the specifications and the package contents that they list on here. Inside of that box, we've got the user's manual. It's pretty nice. You know, they give you some little pics in here, little pictorial representation, along with you know, blow by blow, press this, hold this, etc., etc. So, a really usable manual. A little bit of information on the Addy itself. Warning card. Be nice to batteries, or they won't be nice to you. Registration card for warranty purposes, and Smoant here is saying that it passed quality control. We also get a spare glass, straight-sided glass for the Addy. Some spare O-rings for the Addy. USB cable for charging and updating. An extra coil, which is almost identical to the one that's in there. The one that's in there is a 0.18, this is a 0.17, they're both mesh. And here's our NaBoo tank. On the top of the new NaBoo tank, we've got a drip tip, which would make sense. That pulls off of there. It's an 810. It's one with a ring, the O-ring on the drip tip itself. Here you can see the well for that to fit into. It's a nice wide bore. The top screws off. You can see the sealing O-rings on the top of it there, and you can see the fill ports to each side, nice and wide, real easy to fill. On the bottom of it we have our airflow adjustment. There are two, one on each side. On the bottom obviously we have our 510 connection. Real nice clean threads. Looks like the machining is done well. Spin the bottom off, unscrew the bottom here, if I can get a hold of it. There we go. And the glass that's on it's a bubble tank. That will pop off. Doesn't seem to want to right now. It's stuck on there pretty good, so I'll leave it stuck on, but it will pop off. It's held on by an O-ring. You can see the top of the receiver there. And here we have the coil. One provided, like I say, a 0.18 coil. There's our bottom of the coil. O-ring. This one is the one I've been using for a while. You can see that the cotton is a little bit dirty, and the mesh inside is darkened a little bit. Obviously with a new coil, prime it on the top, get that cotton wet until you start to see the cotton turn color down in here. There's the bottom of our Addy. You can see the positive connection point. You can see some of the threading in there. And again, you know, the machining's nice. It isn't fabulous necessarily, but it's nice. Everything fits in real nice, everything screws in real nice, no trouble with cross threading, anything of that nature. Putting it back together, simple enough. You might want to take a pair of pliers and put the ends in here to help you tighten that just a little bit, okay, to make sure that it tightens down enough that when you put this on there, you're not unscrewing the whole top instead of just the filler top when you go to fill it. Addy holds about 4 mils of juice. Excellent flavor on this guy. It's a mesh coil. It does a real nice job. Obviously it's made to match the mod itself. This one is rainbow. And then let me wipe off my fingers, because this guy is a real fingerprint magnet, and I'm going to get some of that regardless, but best I can do. Okay, here is the front of our mod. We see the Smoant at the top, and we can see a tinted glass all the way around, glass and or plastic. Okay, turn it over to the side. You can see everything's nicely rounded. Okay, real nice painted finish on this. Real glossy. You definitely see every smudge and every fingerprint. But the paint job, they did a real nice job on this. I've knocked this over a few times, dropped it, whatever. It's not dinging up. It's holding up real nice. Here's our USB connector. On the back, a real nice pattern. On this side, we have our fire button at the top. Real nice clicky fire button. A little bit of push to push that in there. It takes a little bit to press that down. Good, bad, or indifferent. But real clicky, real responsive. And then underneath it, you've got another button, and that turns on and off the adjustability. Okay. On the very top of it, our 510 connector. That is a coated spring-loaded firing pin in there, or excuse me, center pin in there. And the plate is raised just a tad, just ever so slightly. So put a mod on here, or an addy on here. I don't know, maybe you can see just a tiny bit of a gap in there. Yeah, maybe you can't, I don't know. At any rate, it'll hold a 25, absolutely no problem. Looks sharp. Flip it over. We got plenty of venting on the bottom here for the batteries. The battery door itself, you got a little fingernail slot to pop your fingernail into. And here are our batteries. I've got a pair of Sony VTC 5As in there, and you can see that the polarity is marked real nice. Both bottom pins are spring loaded, both top pins are not. So obviously watching the polarity, push against the spring loaded one first, drop that in, pops right in, absolutely no problem getting the batteries in and out of here. You've got the 3 magnets on here, which hold that back on real nice, no movement, no flopping around. Very decent. Now, that screen is definitely too dim to see, so I'm going to have to take a break here, change the lighting a little bit, and we'll go through the navigation of the mod. Okay, so I've got the lights turned way down so we can see this thing. 5 clicks turns it on. Yeah, you can see the screen come up there. This is the standard screen that they've been using. One of the things on this mod that they're really heralding is the 2.4 inch screen on the front, and that is a really good size screen. And then obviously there are no physical buttons on anywhere on it for adjusting, and there's your standby screen. There are a number of those, but that one is the clock. 5 clicks on, 5 clicks off, pretty standard stuff. Okay, obviously saying check atomizer because I don't have one on there. The second button here, the one that turns on and off the adjustability or the adjustment buttons, I'll click that once, and there are my 2 adjustment buttons. I'm in temperature control mode, so every time I touch these, it's going to change the temperature. You can see how that works. As it sits right now, we've got the temperature in Fahrenheit. That'll go all the way up to 600 in round robin. Then we have the fact that it is in temperature control. The time of the puff, 0 seconds. The fact that it's stainless steel. And we have a clock on the front. Okay, just a little digital clock in here. I've got it set to 24 hours, so 0047. I'm 12 hours off. It's yeah. Any rate. Okay, we've got 60 watts provided, and obviously there's 0 ohms because there's no addy on there right now. I can press the fire button. Well, let's go into it once here. 1, 2, 3 brings us into the menu itself. So we'll work around in the menu. Let's go into variable wattage mode, use the fire button and click it quickly to get in. And here are all your variable wattage choices. Minimum ramp time, normal ramp time, max ramp time. A VW curve where you can set a number of different points, all different wattages, and it'll follow along with that. Okay, so I'm going to go into normal and do a long press and do another long press, and it didn't do a thing. So evidently I mistook that somehow. So I'm going to do a short press. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Go to normal, do a short press. Yeah, that takes you right in. The long press means get out of the menu, so it'll go backwards. Sorry about that. So right now we're at 22 watts. Obviously now it's going to adjust the wattage, 0.1 increments until you get up to about 100, and then it'll go into 1 watt increments. Changes a little bit, says power. Yeah, that's... Oh, and it says a voltage down here, voltage applied, instead of the wattage available when you're in power mode. Go back into the menu. Temperature control mode, we have nickel, titanium, stainless steel, TCR. You can set a custom TCR for whatever you want. And a TC curve, very similar to the VW curve, except for in that particular mode, we're putting in a number of different temperatures, and it'll follow those temperatures around. I use stainless steel, so I'll punch that. And you can see a couple things that it does here. Not only does it go into temperature control where I last had it, it remembers, but it also locks that resistance because I had that resistance locked the last time I used it. Now to unlock that resistance may be a little difficult the way I've got my hands under the camera here, I'm not sure. But you just tap the right hand adjustment button and the power together. And like I say, that just doesn't want to work well right now. There we go. So now you can see that turned red, and I can adjust the wattage available as to wherever I'd like it. Click on it, that goes away. Now you notice in me fiddling around trying to get those two pressed at the same time, it did change the temperature. So you got to kind of watch that. That's pretty easy to do. You know, take a peek at your temperature and make sure that it's really where you want it. And then you can just press the side button here, our little on and off for the adjustability, and you're ready to rock. It's good to go. Now, one other thing you can do with this thing, and this is a hoot, I'm going to turn it sideways to do this, but watch the little lock there. Press all three, the fire button and the two adjustment buttons at the same time. Ta-da! It unlocks that. So we can also lock and unlock that. Yeah, the resistance. Okay, I'm going to go back with 3. Okay, excellent. Now, settings, what do we got in here? I can set the brightness of the thing. It's already at max, so yeah, it's not going to be the best outside. It's with this darkened cover on it, it's yeah, it's going to be a little bit dim. The time, you can set the time. That really isn't too awful bad to set. I mean, you can, you know, hit your fire button and turn whatever on and off. Okay. Hit the adjustment button and it'll go to hours. Hit the fire button and you're in hours. Okay, and you can set that. Hit your fire button again. It takes you out of adjusting that, so you can roll over to the next one and you go through the same procedure. Go in here and you can cancel what you were doing or enter what you were doing. Going down to the display, we have 3. We have the dial mode, that's the one it's been in. The classic mode. You go in there, Give it a couple hard presses, and you can see that whatever background wallpaper you want to have in there you can have, and you can see what the rest of it looks like. Going back into that, and back into display. This is something that they've added with this particular device, their music mode. Do a couple hard presses to get out of everything, and there we go. It is picking up outside noises. Notice that? Watch. Boo. Hello. So that is actually showing the frequency spectrum of my voice. Isn't that just amazing? Okay. So go back into display, and I just kind of like the down mode, so there we go. Okay. You have a screensaver. You can choose from different screensavers, a watch or a wallpaper. I like the watch. It's pretty neat. You got the timeout. You can set the amount of time before the main screen times out. You can go to factory reset. Oh, there it is. You can go to factory reset and reset everything to the factory parameters. And you can turn on and off vibrate mode. It's kind of neat. What this thing will do is, because these are not physical buttons, because you get no tactile feedback from that, pressing the buttons, okay, you can turn it on. You can turn the vibrate mode on, and it'll vibrate a little bit whenever you press these buttons. If you press and hold the button, it'll just vibrate the once to indicate, a single press. Or if you press it real quick, it'll again vibrate once real quick. So I don't use it, but it's there if you'd like to use it. And that's pretty much a navigation to this guy. Real straightforward, real easy to use. Down here you've got your battery indicator. There's actually 5 when it's absolutely full. It'll use the battery down to 0 bars and not show a heck of a lot of difference in output, at least at nominal ranges. So it uses the battery very well as well. And with that, I guess we'll talk about it. Okay, talking about the performance to begin with, I've got it in variable wattage mode, and I've got the mod set for its full power, 225 watts. The true resistance, as always measured with a milliohm meter, is 0.18 ohms. And the mod read that as exactly the same, 0.18 ohms. The mod put out 6.16 volts and delivered 192 watts to the coil. And the rise time was about 10 milliseconds. So you can see on the top a little bit of noise. Could be the mod, could be just the lead off the oscilloscope to some degree. But all in all, it's a very nice flat DC signal. Looking good here. Next test, the mod is again set to variable wattage and full power. The actual resistance was 0.27 ohms, and the mod read that as 0.26 ohms, very close. Voltage at the coil, 6.68 volts, and it delivered 172 watts. It's doing real good here. Rise time, 7 milliseconds, and we still see that real nice flat DC signal. Okay, here's a third test that I did, still in variable wattage mode, reduced it to 60 watts. Same resistance as last time, something a little more normal for that kind of a resistance, and the mod put out 4.2 volts and 68 watts. A little hot here, a little bit more than what we're asking for. Again, a pretty reasonable DC signal with about a 7 millisecond rise time. Next one up, variable wattage mode yet again, back to full power. This time I used a true resistance of 0.53 ohms, and the mod read that as 0.5 ohms. The voltage at the coil was 7.36 volts, and it put on 108 watts. Plenty of power for most half-ohm coils, for sure. Nice DC signal across the top again. You see a little noise, but it's still a nice flat DC signal. And again, about a 7 millisecond rise time. Same resistance as last time, variable wattage again. This time we're reducing the wattage to 45 watts. Again, something more reasonable for a half ohm coil. 5.28 volts at the coil, 56 watts. Again, a little hot here. Seems to be that way across the board from what I can tell anyway. It's rise time 3 milliseconds, and the signal's a little more choppy on this one. Definitely very reasonable and getting the job done. On this one, I decided not to worry about what the mod would do at full wattage. Nobody that I know of is going to hit over 1 ohm with 225 watts. So this is at 20 watts, true resistance 1.03 ohms. The mod read the resistance as 0.95 ohms. This is the furthest the mod's got from the true resistance, although it's still within what I would call industry standard, so it's still doing a decent job. Voltage at the coil, 4.9 volts and 25 watts. Again, not something that's surprising. It's a little bit hot. And you notice in the very beginning we got a little pulse here. I remember seeing that on other Smoants as well. Nothing that's consequential. So that's nice DC signal again. Last chart up. We're in TC mode now. I gave it 60 watts to work with. I put in here that true resistance was unknown because obviously, stainless steel, it's going to vary. The resistance is going to vary as it heats and cools, so just easier to work with that way. Mod read that as a 0.4 ohm resistance, and the voltage at the coil was approximately 4.9 volts in the beginning, which was that 60 watts that I had asked for. The rise time was about 10 milliseconds. The set temperature was 430 degrees Fahrenheit, and it achieves 410 degrees Fahrenheit within 95% of the set point. So doing a nice job here. Okay, you can see as the chart goes along, it's working its way through that liquid and reducing the amount of power that it's pushing to the addy, and it did not burn the cotton, as it dried that cotton out. So this is exactly what I felt when I vaped on it as well. To my senses anyway, it's putting out a very decent, well-controlled, even temperature vape on temperature control. So I'm impressed. Okay, and there you have it, the Smoant NaBoo kit. Another winner as far as I'm concerned from Smoant. It is small. It's about the same size as most of your 2-battery mods are today, I guess I can say that. It's very close to their Sharon Mini. Okay, couple of different features from the Sharon Mini, a bigger screen, a different firmware version. Obviously no physical buttons. The buttons are on the outside. Starting with the tank. The tank, I vaped it for about a week before it started losing flavor. And being a mesh coil, it really does put out a very nice flavor for a manufactured coil head. Not going to fault this in any way, shape, or form. The liquid lasts for a fair amount of time, especially with the bubble tank. You got that 4 milliliters of liquid in there, comfortable drip tip, easy to fill, no complaints. The mod itself, vaped it both on variable wattage and variable temperature control for a good period of time, and it did a fine job in both modes. I didn't have any problems with it popping out of a mode or doing anything squirrely, doing anything odd. It's all rounded, it's all curved, it feels nice in the hand. The batteries are real easy to get in and out. Okay, the battery door sticks real well and it's very stable. Really don't have any complaints. The 2 buttons on the side close to each other, that's taking a little bit of getting used to. Every once in a while I'll press the small button that turns on and off the adjustments instead of the fire button, and that's not so good. Obviously then I'm adjusting things just by touching the screen there, and so that's not the best there. But as long as you get used to that and stay with where the fire button is, no problems. It's just a real fine mod as far as I'm concerned. It does a real nice job. Some of the other specs, and I've got them over here on another screen, just to buzz through a couple of them. 0.1 to 2 ohms in temperature control, 0.1 to 3 ohms in variable wattage, balanced charging at 1.5 amps. It's obviously firmware upgradable. I wrote down the firmware. I had one person on a forum make it a point that they wanted to see, he wanted to see the firmware version, and this is 5.1.7 on this particular one. It's the only firmware version they have out now. There's no upgrades, at least at present, for this mod at the time of this video. Oh, anything else? I had reverse protection, overheat protection, low voltage protection, overload, short circuit protection, colors, black, red, stainless steel, and rainbow. And the rest of it really isn't saying a whole lot. They give the size of it 48 millimeters by 31 millimeters by 91 millimeters, but you can pretty much see what the size of it is. It's got a little bit of heft to it. It's got a little bit of weight. It feels substantial. I bounced it around a little bit, knocked it over a few times here and there. No dents, no scratches, nothing like that. The paint seems to be doing very, very well. Now, where I set it down, okay, I see a little bit of paint fading on the very bottom along the edges. That I see in every mod that I own. So I don't take that as an exception. There was one tiny, tiny spot right at the very top of it in the rainbow coloring that it didn't scratch off, but they didn't get it blued in. It's in the middle of the blue and it's silver, and that was obviously painting boo-boo, I guess I'll call it. But it wasn't the paint scratching off or anything like that. It's staying on real nice. So with that, I'm going to let it go. Like I say, I think it's a very fine mod. I can definitely recommend this. Is there anything form, fit, and function that's much, much better than say the Sharon Mini? Not in my humble opinion. They're both very fine mods. This one is a little bit different. That screen's kind of nice. I do like that. I mean, it's large. I'm old and I can see that real well. Well, as far as the size of it goes. Now outside, in bright light, because of the tinted screen over top of it, not so much. But yeah, as far as the size of the screen, that's nice. I do enjoy that. So with that, thanks Smoant, okay, for sending me this. Thank you all more than anything for taking a peek and taking a watch, and we'll see you again sometime.